Good evening, fireside friends. Tonight, let's discuss the truth about fairy tales. Fairy tales were never meant to be children's stories. When we think of fairy tales today, magic comes to mind, castles come to mind, happy endings, Disney musicals. But the original versions were very, very different. They were darker, stranger, and far more brutal than what we usually hear. And that, my friends, was not a mistake. Fairy tales didn't begin as entertainment. They began as oral stories that were passed from person to person, long before books, long before Disney ever existed. And in those early versions, stories had a purpose. They were not written to comfort children in bed. They were written to prepare them for the world. In fact, life back then wasn't gentle. It was uncertain. It was unpredictable. It was dangerous. It was often unfair and cruel. So stories reflected that reality. A fairy tale wasn't saying everything will be okay. It was saying, be careful. This world is not safe. It's why so many symbolic meanings in these stories feel dark. Wolves weren't just animals. They were danger and deceit. Witches weren't just villains. They were mistrust and mayhem. Forests and woods weren't just places. They were the unknown. Fairy tales gave fear a shape so people could understand it better. Over time, these stories changed. The violence was softened. The endings became happier. The warnings slowly turned into entertainment, and eventually, they became stories for children. But underneath all of that, the original purpose is still there, because fairy tales were never just about magic. They were about survival, and about learning that even in a dangerous world, you can still find a way through it. So maybe fairy tales were never meant to scare children, and maybe they weren't meant to comfort them either. Maybe they were meant to do something more important, to teach us that the world can be dark, but not unbeatable. And that's it for tonight, Fireside listeners. If you enjoyed this video and the ideas behind it, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the Fireside Tales with Michael. There are many more stories waiting to be told, and many more truths hidden inside them. Until next time, bye.